everyone, and welcome to Unity Under Faith. I'm Shannon.
I'm Courtney.
And today we're back to our cultural issues, but I personally couldn't help myself. Okay, Thanksgiving is my absolutely favorite holiday, and it does tend to be a controversial subject, especially in this day and age. So we're going to talk about Thanksgiving because, yeah, it's a fun thing to talk about. And it's interesting to talk about the origins. I don't think I've ever taken the time to do the research until recently.
Yeah, a lot of stuff we found out.
So the most widely accepted idea about Thanksgiving is that the Indians welcomed the Pilgrims on the Mayflower, and they taught them how to plant crops, and they celebrated an Indian alliance. Is there anything I'm missing?
No, pretty much sums it up.
That was Squanto, right, that taught them how to plant?
I want to say yes.
Yeah. Oh, and upon researching this, by the way, it was very hard because it turns out that the facts were very entrenched in a lot of bias on every side. Yeah. Good, bad, ugly, everything in between. Mm-hmm. So we are kind of summarizing some perspectives just because it was kind of hard to trench through the facts without getting a lot of bias in between. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So that was perspective number 1, aka the original perspective, aka most people just throw that out. And second perspective is a little more entrenched in not so great stuff.
So, another widely held theory is that the Native Americans weren't actually invited at all. The Pilgrims, or at the time they were called the Separatists, were apparently basically just having a big old field day and getting drunk and partying and shooting because that's what they did. And the Native American chief in the nearby area is like, whoa, I hear gunshots. This can't be good. And
wait, you mean they partied like we did nowadays?
Yeah, a little bit.
So we got it from them. Okay, well.
Even the old Puritanists were doing that, okay? So the chief is just like, whoa, I don't like this. We gonna send some people. We gonna investigate because we don't know if you guys are plotting war, what's going down. So he sent 90 of his best peeps over there. And Squanto did some interpretations because Squanto actually was a slave by some Spanish guy who took him overseas, learned English, came back. So he spoke both native and the English. And he translated to the natives. It was like, hey, no, man, it's cool. It's just a party. That's how we get down. And then they joined the party, and it was a giant party. And then they had peace for the next, almost 60 years until the war started. That's another theory.
And on top of all of that, they talked about the diseases that were brought and then the mistreatment of the natives over time, and that the alliance was more actually about survival than intercultural harmony. It's like, I'm going to make peace with you so you don't destroy us like other people. Or I can't remember the name of the tribe, but it was another tribe they were helping protect against, something like that. Mm-hmm. Don't quote us on that. You can go to your own research for that part. Mm-hmm. That's perspective number 2. So now, because we didn't really like the bias stuff in between.
Yeah, no, that was
like
nuts.
Some of it's probably true from both sides.
Yeah.
Quite frankly. So usually you find the truth somewhere in between. And we found actually from the Washington Post an interesting article that was factual. It was just laid out more factually, so that's kind of why we liked it. Mm-hmm. And it kind of, I felt like brought both sides into perspective. So we're going to go ahead and read this article to you. And it's not only does it give us brief history, it gives how it became a national holiday in the first place. Mm-hmm. And it's actually pretty interesting. So mind you, this article is more than a year old, but that's okay. Sadly, we couldn't find much recent about it, I feel like, unless it was from some very strange websites.
Yeah, some of them recipe and food blogs, because, they are apt to talk about historical facts and stuff.
Like, we're there for the food, man. We're there for the food.
Well, we're not going to talk about the fact that 3 pages of their life story before you get to the recipe. Don't make me wait for my biscuits.
The name of this article is Why We Celebrate Thanksgiving Every Year. It isn't what you think. There is an enormous amount of misinformation about the origins of the Thanksgiving holiday as we celebrate it today, including when, how, and why it became a tradition in the United States. Here's the real story, which I published a few years ago, and I'm doing so again. This was by A. Valerie Strauss. What Americans think they know about the history of Thanksgiving doesn't always square with the truth. For example, it is generally believed that in 1621, the Pilgrims invited Wampanoag Indians to a feast in Plymouth Colony to celebrate their first harvest, and a good time with turkey and pumpkin pie was had by all. Well, maybe and maybe not.
Pumpkin pie!
Historians, including those at Plymouth Plantation, a living museum in Plymouth, Massachusetts, say that they do know there was a feast that year shared by the colonists and Wampanoag Indians, which, by the way, if I'm saying that name wrong, I super apologize. Somebody can correct me how it's pronounced. I'm just doing my best here. And Squanto, who had learned English, served as translator. But the one historical account of the actual dinner says venison was served and some sort of fowl, but it doesn't specifically mention turkey. Pumpkin was available, but it is not likely the colonists whipped up a pie. Furthermore, sweet potatoes were unknown to the colonists, and cranberries may have been served, but not as a relish. There's a lot of misinformation about the Pilgrims, too. American kids learned that the Pilgrims came to the New World in search of religious freedom, and they dressed only in black and white and wore buckles on their shoes. No, no, and no. The Pilgrims left Britain in search of religious freedom, but found it in Holland in the early 1600s, where they found a high degree of religious tolerance. The reason they wanted to come to the New World and establish a colony was to preserve their English identity and for economic reasons. Also, they didn't wear buckles on their shoes, and Pilgrim women dressed in colors including red, green, blue, and violet, while men wore a variety of colors too. If you think Americans have been celebrating Thanksgiving annually since 1621, guess again. Nobody at the time thought of it as the start of a new tradition, and there had been similar gatherings elsewhere earlier. Historians know there was another feast in the colony in 1623, but it was held early in the year. Different colonies celebrated their own days of Thanksgiving during the year. In 1789, George Washington declared Thursday, November 26th, a Thanksgiving holiday, but only for that year, and it wasn't connected to the Pilgrim Feast, but rather intended as a public thanksgiving and prayer, devoted to the service of that great and glorious being who is the beneficent author of all the good that was, that is, or that will be. So this is the part that got me, you guys. This was very strange. Come to find out, the reason we even have a Thanksgiving has everything to do with the published author at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Which I believe, but I'm like, oh, well then.
Mm-hmm. And she don't take no for an answer.
Apparently not. And a 19th century author, poet, and magazine editor named Sarah Josepha Hale. She was editor of the influential Godey's Ladies Book for 40 years, from 1837 to 1877, when she was nearly 90 years old. She and her husband, David Hale, had 5 children, and when he died in 1822, she wore black for the rest of her life. Hale was an education advocate, and through the magazine she edited, became a famous figure in the country who set fashion, reading, and cooking trends. Washington Irving Jr., Nathaniel Hawthorne, and Oliver Wendell Holmes were among the authors who published work in her magazine. She was also a prolific author, writing dozens of novels and books of poetry, and penned, or co-penned according to one account, the famous Mary Had a Little Lamb, which was published in 1830. Hale, who was highly patriotic, read about the 1621 Feast of the Pilgrims and became captivated with the idea of turning it into a national holiday. She published in the Godey's Ladies book recipes for turkey and stuffing and pumpkin pie and started traditions that had nothing to do with the colonists. She began a lobbying campaign to persuade President Abraham Lincoln to make Thanksgiving an official annual holiday, using her magazine to build public support by writing an editorial every year starting in 1846. She also sent letters to all governors in the United States and territories. In 1863, Lincoln did set Thanksgiving as an official holiday to be celebrated on the 4th Thursday of November every year. In 1939, President Franklin D. Roosevelt agreed to move the annual Thanksgiving holiday to the 3rd Thursday of November. Why? To help the economy by making the Christmas shopping season a little bit longer. There was so much opposition to the move that 2 years later he changed it to the 4th Thursday in November. That's right, folks. We have Thanksgiving because of money.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel, Courtney?
I want some pumpkin pie.
I don't care why. I just want pumpkin pie.
So I guess you could say they gobbled up the idea.
In short, once again, the reason that we have Thanksgiving actually doesn't have much to do with the colonists, other than the lady saw the colonists' Thanksgiving. We already had a Thanksgiving holiday that he declared, and the writer was the one who connected it. And for economic and selling purposes, because she did have a magazine with recipes, and it helped the Christmas shopping season, that's sadly why we have Thanksgiving. That kind of breaks my heart.
It does me too, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily have to be about that.
No, because I know a lot of people too, like, some of the things, 99% of the things that our ancestors did to the Native Americans was absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, no, it was bad.
Like, it breaks my heart, and I've often wondered, should I even be celebrating Thanksgiving? Like, because, it's so representative of that. I grew up in school learning it that way. I did not grow up learning it that, they loved them. I learned that, no, actually, they were very mistreatment. They brought disease, and how awful it was.
Yep. And I think it's one of those things where I don't think it was probably intended to start off the way it ended, but I think it can be one of those things where we've come down the line and we notice that it's more about family and bringing ourselves together, getting together and having food and being thankful that our family is here and that we are together to celebrate it. I don't really think that we should stay in the negative of everything. Yes, there is history to be learned. We should not sweep that under the rug. However, we can turn a negative into a positive and move on and try to make something good out of it. I know that I may not be like the most social butterfly ever, but I do love coming to see my family. I do love sitting with them and eating and having fun.
She's a pretty good cook.
I never made tacos for Thanksgiving. What? Anyway, but all of that aside, it could be something so much better.
It's kind of like, I really have had this thing lately, and this is just me. We can either, and this I'm trying to apply to my own life, is that the past is the past. We can't change the past. We can only heal from it and work with what we've got to move forward.
Agreed. Very much agreed.
I do understand that not everyone, unfortunately, has good family relationships. Unfortunately, maybe Thanksgiving's a horrible time because you have to go see your family, and maybe your family's not kind to you, and we're very sorry that that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
If we knew where you are, we would have Thanksgiving with you and, feed you and love you. But the point is, kind of, whenever it comes to Thanksgiving, they say you shouldn't just be thankful at Thanksgiving, because for me, personally, Thanksgiving has been about, what am I thankful for? We would go around in our family and say one thing we're thankful for, because I'm going to tell you what, it's really easy to focus on the negative.
Oh, yeah.
I even have a lot of things going on that I could just focus on the negative. Maybe you're someone who your relationship isn't great, or your job's going crazy, or the car broke down, or all of the above plus, and it's raining on you, and it can get you into a dark place. But if you find yourself thinking about even the smallest positive thing to be thankful for, that can uplift your attitude and help you make that next step to move forward with what you got.
Yep.
But again, that's entirely up to you how you want to live your life. So we're just saying we know what's worked for us when we've been in a dark place.
I've been on both sides of the fence. I've been on the side of the fence where I only focused on everything that was negative, and it led me to a couple mental breakdowns and a deep depression that Jesus had to deliver me from. But one thing that I do know is that trying to look on the positive side of things, it gives you hope. And the Bible does say to encourage yourself in the Lord. Whether you want to do it in the Lord, that's on you, but encouraging yourself is a good thing to do, and to focus on the positive. We have so much negative coming at us from just about everywhere, even from everyday life to the media to the internet. Oh my goodness. Sometimes I just put my phone away and just stare into space, wishing I could just have mind bleach, because people are hurting, and they turn against each other, and it's just getting bad. But in times like these, you can choose to be happy. You can choose to be thankful for what you do have. No, everything's not great. I mean, there are some things going down, maybe financial issues, but there are things that you can be thankful for.
No, whether you choose to be thankful about them, no, we're just encouraging you to be thankful. So,
I mean, that pumpkin pie dough.
now we did ask a couple of people to tell us why they did or did not like Thanksgiving. Because not everyone loves Thanksgiving, and that's fine. I'm sorry you did get a slightly biased version of this, because Thanksgiving is my favoriteest holiday of the year because of family and food and giving of thanks. So I apologize to all you Thanksgiving haters. I got nothing for you. I understand. And we got a couple. They didn't give us a video, unfortunately, but I had asked for a video of why, but they just showed up for the food and the family, but they didn't really care for Thanksgiving. It's just another day to them. I know. Some people might feel that way, and that's okay. If you don't like Thanksgiving, don't celebrate it, but I would try to encourage you to give thanks anyways. But we did get one video. One video that says it all. If you remember, there's Zeko Tatsumaru from our previous channel. Mm-hmm. So his name is actually John, but he refers to me as Virgos. That's my gamer tag from Jack Gear. And if I ever play games, you're going to see that. So let's listen.
Hello, this is Zeko Tatsumaru. Virgos had asked us whether or not we celebrate Thanksgiving and wanted to know why. Yes, I celebrate Thanksgiving like most Americans. We get the day off. It's the easiest time to actually get a vacation. Other reasons being spending time with family, friends, and of course food. The actual reason for Thanksgiving is completely different than the actual day. You should be giving Thanksgiving to God just simply for surviving this menagerie of madness we call 2021. Pretty much daily. But it's best to thank God as much as you can. Blessing Him is blessing you. Trust me on that one. I'd like to leave you with a verse today, Psalm 107, 8 through 9. Oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord for His goodness and for His wonderful works to the children of men, for He satisfies the longing soul and fills the hungry soul with goodness. Again, this is Zeko Tetsumaru. I'm signing out, so have a good one.
That was John's video.
I think he actually summed it up pretty nicely.
It's just like he said, it's Thanksgiving. Really, the real reason means absolutely nothing based on what we heard. And again, I'm a little disappointed. It was based on economics, and then they tried to teach in schools that it was this whole schmeal. Mm-hmm. But it's what we've got now. And I think it's been, for the most part, a pretty decent time for families to come together. I hate to get rid of any holiday that brings families together, but to each their own. We will celebrate Thanksgiving because, again, well, Miss Christmas thing over here. Christmas is her favorite. Thanksgiving is my favorite, so whatever. But maybe you don't love Thanksgiving, but we would still encourage you, try to be thankful for something. Even on an everyday basis, January through December of the year.
Every day is a gift, and you can choose to be thankful for it, or you can choose to be bitter. It's going to be up to you.
Whatever you choose to do, whether it's celebrate Thanksgiving or not celebrate Thanksgiving because you just can't get past what had happened, which is fine. We hope that you still have a great day off and that you still get to eat all the fun things that you like. Mm-hmm. And hopefully you get to do some shopping if that's what you love to do. If you love to cyber shop, whatever. And we will see you next month. Remember, you are loved. You're not alone. And Jesus loves you. Shannon?
And Courtney.
Peace.
Deuces.
Stare at the camera.
The
The camera is your best friend. So we're going to start that over with talking about the Indians. Camera is me. You're talking to me. That is the virtual part of me. Yes, you would make that face.
For Thug Life.
Thug
Poor
life.
God. Miss JJ, do you want to come dance for the camera?
She's like, get away from me.